thank you very much for coming along tonight. My name is Michael Smythe and I work under the pseudonym of Nomad. Tonight I'm joined by Marcus Coates, who is the artist who's made this piece that you've seen fragments of in collaboration with Chrome Huth, and also lots of other key people like Ernie and Gloria from the Haygate Estate. I'm not sure whether the Southwark Council members are here yet. We've also got some of the developers, hopefully arriving soon, etc. And I'm also joined by Will Hodgkinson, who is a journalist and author. Will's recent book, Ballad of Britain, has just come out. And the reason I asked Will to come along is because his practice is very similar to the process Marcus and I have sort of taken to make this piece. Will predominantly writes about music, song, performance, and within his books he always goes on a journey to find out information or to learn something, which is very much the process Marcus and I have taken to make this piece. The performance downstairs with Marcus and Chrome Huth was completely improvised. It was very much about responding to the different people that you can see on the TV screens that we encountered before the actual performance. The piece so far is unfinished. What you see upstairs is unedited, sort of really rough rushes of the documentary that we shot called The Vision Quest, which was shot pre the concert gig, where we went around and met lots of key people in this neighborhood and got them to take us on an imaginary journey, or their own journey, in a sense guide Marcus through a visioning. These lessons, for instance, Wahid, he is in charge of demolishing Elephant and Castle, taught Marcus how to dance with intention, for instance. We have Ernie, who teaches Marcus how to use his voice to articulate abstract sounds of happiness and sadness, etc. Sort of articulating his experience being moved off the Haygate Estate after living there for over 30 years. Then we have the Southwark councillors up the back, who are taking Marcus on a journey into the imagination, almost like a psychedelic team-building exercise where they talk Marcus on a journey through the neighbourhood using different metaphors of sort of animals and spirits to kind of guide his way. And then we've got Shane and Buster over there, who he kind of lives around the neighbourhood in sort of various different places with his dog. So these are just some of the characters that help sort of inform the performance that's happened at the Coronet Theatre on the 5th of June and that you saw downstairs. We're now at the process of trying to articulate what this story is, because the actual subject matter, as we'll talk in a minute, is still really unresolved. I guess this evening is more of an informal discussion, really, and any input you have will be fantastic. I think we'll start off by just talking about the logic of the project from our side and the process of making it to date. But if anyone has any kind of comments or wants to interject in any way, please do. So, cheers. So,
well, shall I start?
Yeah.
Well, for me, the project really started when Michael came to me and said, I really want to work with you on pretty much anything. Come up with something. We can come up with something together. And we were kind of racking our brains thinking about something. And quite a few things came up and didn't go right and got cancelled. And it seemed like 2 years of projects that we worked on actually got cancelled.
Yeah, well, in a sense, it was a rolling conversation.
Yeah.
And we're looking at really big issues internationally, like the conflict in the Middle East between Israel and Palestine, as something impossible to resolve. But the idea that an absurd act, like a sort of middle-class English gentleman going over there and doing a shamanic rite, maybe could be so absurd it could maybe do something.
So we're really looking at the sort of usefulness of art, actually, and the role of the artist in that sense, and whether the artist has an extended role in terms of his or her responsibility beyond just producing art, art being a functional entity, really. So that's what we were really interested in. And I was really interested in the idea of the performer, and particularly the musical performer, and the sort of popular musical performer, really, or the pop star, really, and how this this figure has kind of soaked up so much of so many roles that have existed in traditional cultures. Basically, a kind of healing role. The idea of transformation, transforming a sense of a collective imagination into something quite solid and concrete. And there are many examples of this happening within shamanic traditions, for example. And it felt for me, because a lot of my work is involved in this, working for the community on the behalf of specific problems, that this could be quite an interesting way to work. So we started to look at sort of groups to collaborate with. Yeah,
so I guess we were looking at the transformative power of music as well, popular culture, I guess, as you were saying. And originally we thought about making just a folk song and recording it just as a disc, basically. And then we're thinking, who could we bring in to collaborate to provide the music, basically? And it kind of naturally just came into our minds that Chrome Hoof randomly would be the band that we would want to collaborate with. Yeah.
Can I just take you back and say you're here? Were you already here in the Elephant and Castle at this point, or were you?
No. We had no location.
Yeah.
It was very much about an idea about, as Marcus said, inhabiting this sort of performative, this new performative space, which essentially became the idea of making a record, which then led logically to who would help us produce that in a way, who would provide the backing for that. And for me, even though it was almost like just appeared in my head, it seemed very logical that Chrome Hoof would be the ultimate band to do that, which, you know, I think maybe Will could elaborate on, because they are this kind of cluster of exactly what London is. You know, it's chaotic and loud and anarchic, but funky and functional and tight, you know. So I guess from there we had the task of convincing this, you know, 10 to 15 piece doom psychedelic prog metal band that they wanted to come on a journey with us, which was quite interesting unto itself.
But interestingly, sort of simultaneously to this, we kind of came across Elephant and Castle. It wasn't like, okay, we've got the band now we need something to work with. It all kind of happened at the same time.
And I think that was also, once again, a very intuitive thing. In terms of the coronet came to mind, we're thinking, well, where can we host this ritual? And the coronet came to mind because it was slightly ambiguous as to what it did. It was in the heart of London, and no one really knew what kind of performance music goes on in there. You know, Shunt was known as a performance art venue, and you know, the Astoria was rock and gay disco, and the Apollo is known for big bands, and the Coronet is this massive venue in the heart of London that no one knew anything really about. They knew of lots of mythology. Did somebody get shot there? Is it open? Is it closed? And I felt that would give us some sort of autonomy in terms of this mix-up of genres. No one knew what the venue did, and no one knew what Chrome Hoof and Marcus were going to do, and I thought that was a very important part of the whole process.
And then exploring out from the Coronet, it felt like the Coronet had a real function here. I mean, it was at the heart of this place that felt like structurally it was just about to dissolve. I mean, the whole area around the Coronet it felt like at that point it was just about to be knocked down. Turns out it hasn't been knocked down yet, and we don't know when it's going to be knocked down. But that really keyed into, especially into, I think, my sense of the functionality of this music and the functionality of this performance and who this could be for and why we should do it. It felt like we needed a reason to do it. We shouldn't just do the performance. It needed to have a purpose. So yeah, we started to talk to whoever would talk to us really around the neighbourhood, and Michael made connections with
cold
lots of people.
January morning. Emery, the cinematographer, and Pierre from Nomad and myself rocked up at the Haygate Estate Tenants and Residents Association. We heard that they don't pick up their phone very often and they get harassed a lot by different people wanting to tell their story. So we stood outside before knocking, going, okay, what are we going to tell them? This is really confusing. We knocked, went in, they warmly greeted us, said, no, 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 you're 10 years too late. No, our story's, it's been had. But we didn't leave their office for about 6 months, and ended up getting to know them all, and basically they took us on an amazing journey throughout, you know, the last 30 plus years of the Hague Estate existing, and also played a fundamental part in the formation of the content of the whole piece. Ernie and Gloria in particular actually came on a thing called Vision Quest, which we spent, after many months of filming and doing research, we all kind of lived on the estate and around Elephant and Castle for several days, sort of eating, sleeping, meeting lots of people, having lots of conversation and filming content for the gig. And Ernie and Gloria felt sorry for us and gave us a house and showers, and also joined us in this journey, which I guess is very similar to all the different collaborators from the different components you can see. It started to transform away from our vision of this and into the vision of the people we were working with, which was quite interesting. And I think hopefully that's slightly apparent. More abstract in the concert performance itself, but more apparent in the film footage we've shot outside of that.
Yeah, it became, as Michael says, really apparent that there's so many different visions in this area. And it's an area that I, as an outsider, thought was pretty soulless, pretty empty, pretty spiritless, really. But since having done this work, it's totally changed my opinion of the area. And I think for me, it was about finding a kind of personal vision of what this place could be, but also trying to represent a little, if I could, what all these other visions of this place could be. And that's the vision, the singular, monumental vision of the council, in terms of this mega city, what that could be. The guy who's homeless, talking to him, Ernie and Gloria talking about their vision and what they've been through in terms of them being relocated and turfed out of their house into another house. So it became a sort of an onslaught, really, of all these visions of the future and what they can be. And we're still sort of sifting through all that, really, and finding out where kind of, well, I find out where I sit personally in it. And the performance was really a start of that. It was using elements that all these different people gave me to perform with. And I think I kind of reached some sort of conclusion in that performance, but how I'm going to present and distill that into a form which can communicate, I'm not quite sure at the moment.
Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to have an idea about, well, you just touch on that, what would be the final form of this journey, and who is your audience, who do you have in mind as an audience, particularly in reference to this healing process you were sort of pointing out as the heart of your, so the kind of the heart of what motivates you.
Well, for me, because it's been such a long and elaborate process, it feels like the audience, we've already met the audience, and the audience has already seen it, almost. This is like almost another stage of the process. I feel like the audience were the people we worked with, and they carry on being those people. But wider than that, I think I wanted to some resolution for this work, to speak to anyone, even if they don't know the Elephant and Castle. Yeah,
I think before we actually gave, after the concert, we went around to the council again and gave them our finding, basically interpreted what Marcus saw with the swallows, geese and seals, and told them sort of essentially what that meant, decoded that. So that was one way of readdressing and sort of summarizing the more abstract concert. But that process is still ongoing, and I think one thing that's come out of that process is realizing that the situation is kind of universal. It's happening everywhere. Every city has gentrification, and every city has this sort of class battle, I guess. And I, in a way, the film is slightly about that, but it's also about entertainment. It's about people, really, and their imagination.